Hi y'all, welcome back. I'm Barbie Jean, and today we are talking about bisexuality. I'm excited because I define as bisexual, so we're going to talk about the definition. We're going to talk about lingo, words that I think you should know, labels, famous people that are bisexual, and then just how to embrace your sexuality. Yay. So bisexuality means the attraction to more than one gender. That can be men, women, cisgender, transgender, non-binary. Bisexual is not binary. It's not transphobic. It encompasses more than one. So some of you might be like, wait a minute, isn't that pansexual? Well, no, it's not. Pansexual actually is when you are focused on the being, regardless of gender. Whereas bisexual, you recognize gender. You acknowledge the potential that you could be in love or sexually attracted to or physically attracted to or emotionally attracted to more than one gender. Now, some lingo that isn't as maybe intense for some people, or maybe you're just kind of curious about more than one gender. A lot of people call that bicurious. Also, a lot of people declare themselves as either heteroflexible or homoflexible. Those terms are just, again, like leaning into that flexibility of sexuality, but not maybe declaring and labeling yourself as full-on bisexual or a certain sexuality. It's just a way to say, like, maybe I'm exploring a little bit, or this is something that is interesting to me, but ultimately you decide what feels right to you. And I really love the term fluid as well. I think fluid is just a great way to describe us as human beings, but it also is a great way to describe sexuality because we change so much over time as human beings, but also in our sexuality. I find that my sexuality is so fluid. It's ever changing. It's always moving in different directions, and I just think that's what makes it so beautiful. And I also think queer is really popular these days. A lot of people just declare themselves as queer. But again, the rainbow is unlimited. There's so many different labels. And so again, this moves us into labels. I find that for a lot of people, it's this sense of self-understanding, but it could also be this easy way to find community, to have this sense of community, or an act of liberation. But some people think labels are restrictive. They find that they are not comfortable with labels. And again, avoid them altogether if that's how you feel. You just have to be in tune with what feels right for you. And if you're not comfortable with a label, then don't fucking use one. So I find that it's also, though, easier to be comfortable with who we are and our sexuality when we feel like we're not alone. So I'm going to let you know about all these famous people that I think that I know, and that hopefully most of you know these people as well. And I just think that it can really help to open up yourself to the possibility that perhaps maybe you are attracted to more than one gender. I know from experience that when I first moved to LA, I discovered Nico Torterella's podcast, The Love Bomb, and this was back in 2016. And I was so infatuated with him as a bisexual being. And I loved his podcast because he had lovers and people that he knew, relationships that he had, all conversations that were so organic and real about sex, about sexuality, about, just this world of him. And he is such a fluid human being. And so I just was so infatuated with him as a person. I was in awe of him. I still am. He's one of my favorite people to follow. But he really inspired me to open up. I was like, damn, okay, this guy knows what he likes and he's comfortable with who he is. And I just loved him. So this is leading me to famous people. So let's just list a bunch that I know. We have Frank Ocean. We have Lady Gaga, Megan Fox, Halsey, Kristen Stewart, Angelina Jolie, Willow Smith, Rebel Wilson, Nico Torterella, I already mentioned him, Demi Lovato, Billie Joe Armstrong, Tyler Blackburn, Malcolm X, and Jason Mraz. And again, those are just people that I'm familiar with that are bisexual or that have come out as bisexual, whether it was in an interview or a podcast. But those might be a good place to start if you are kind of feeling like you're alone or you just don't know where to go from here. Maybe follow some of these famous people that you like, that you watch their shows or you listen to their music. And it can just be really helpful. I know it was for me to just watch someone else's journey, and then that can help you open up and become more liberated in your own sexuality. If you feel pride when famous people open up about being bisexual, or if you're feeling like proud of them when you're following them on social media or reading about them, then yeah, perhaps maybe you're just an empathetic human being, but that also could be a sign that maybe you are bisexual, or maybe you're just a little bit bicurious. I know that if you're familiar with the Bachelor franchise, I didn't mention this woman earlier because she's not like crazy famous. The Bachelor Nation is famous to their own degree, but her name is Demi Burnett, and she came out as bisexual on Bachelor in Paradise. And I remember that episode like it was yesterday because it really moved me. I was emotional. I cried. I was just so proud of her, and I was so happy that she was so brave and vulnerable on live television. I couldn't believe it. I still love her vibe. But anyways, if that is something that you feel in your bones when you read somebody coming out in the queer community, or if that kind of feels good to you, again, maybe you're just an empathetic human being, maybe you're just an ally, but perhaps you are maybe bisexual, or again, heteroflexible or homoflexible. Also, if you're kind of fantasizing about more than one gender, if you have imagined your life with more than one gender, if you feel like it's fun to picture your life with different genders, or maybe it gives you a sense of adventure, then I really feel like you need to experiment. But before you experiment, the first thing you need to do is separate yourself from those external pressures and those stereotypes. You really just have to ignore all that bullshit. As difficult as it is, you just have to focus on yourself in this part of your life, because this is your journey, this is your body, your heart, and you just have to get rid of all of that pressure and stereotypes that is causing you maybe some turmoil or anxiety or discomfort because you're worried about what other people might think, you're worried about people that are in your life. As difficult as it is, just ignore that for now and focus on you and experiment. So how do you experiment? Well, as I've told you before, there are avenues and apps and so many easy ways to find people that want to fuck or that want to just go out for coffee. So look at certain dating apps that you maybe are already on and just search for a different gender. For me, I find that Field is a really great dating app. It's a little bit more sex positive and kinky. But it's really easy because you can declare what gender you're interested in. So it's just an easy way to find the type of gender you want. Grindr is a great one. I always mention FetLife. I just think that's a really kinky, fun place to find like-minded, sex-positive individuals. But again, there's so many different avenues, joining Facebook groups even that are, Sex Positive of LA, I know is like a group that I'm a part of, or just opening yourself up to all these different ways where you can meet people that are interested in what you're after. So again, like no pressure. Everyone moves at their own pace. Maybe you just want to get a coffee with someone, or maybe you just want to fuck a different gender. I find that I had such a liberating experience in my exploration phase where I was just curious about my sexuality. I had gone home with a woman before, but I wanted to then have a woman and a man together. I was really craving this bisexual or just fluid nature of human beings. And so I remember the first time I was at a sex party and this lover of mine that was there he was a man, and he ended up sucking a dick with me. And that was just like the most... I was just so happy. I was grinning from ear to ear. Everyone that was there will say that I've never seen Barbie happier. It's just one of those things that I felt he was vulnerable. I knew it was a first for both of us. And I just felt like the whole experience happened so organically and just out of the blue. And it just took me by surprise, which is sometimes the best times, the best moments. And so it felt good. And there's so many people out there that are interested in that, or bicurious, or they find their sexuality to be flexible, or just this queer community is so huge in the world. And so it's just really easy to find these like-minded individuals that want to explore. And you don't have to be open and upfront. You don't have to tell them it's your first time. You can just own it and see how it makes you feel. Maybe you just kiss, or maybe you do have a big night together, or maybe it's just an emotional situation. Whatever it is, I just think it's good to experiment and figure out what feels good to you. And that way you can find these new areas of your sexuality in your being and lean into them if it feels good, or pull back. I've been in situations where I can tell that a woman is not into me as much as she's into my male cisgender partner. And that's okay. Ideally, I would much prefer if she was as into me as she was into him, but sometimes that's just the nature of our sexuality. We have preferences. Sometimes we move more towards feminine energy, and sometimes we're more interested in the masculine or the non-binary. We're fluid. And so I just think the more you experiment, the more you explore yourself, the more in tune you will become with your sexuality, and the more powerful you will feel. And I really want that for you. Now, if you're struggling with, maybe you have been with more than one gender, but you're struggling with opening up about it, you don't know who to share it with because of these shitty external pressures and stereotypes and all that shit, I just recommend opening up to somebody that's not in your intimate inner circle. Start in the outer circle. Maybe a colleague, maybe somebody that you know is an ally, maybe someone that is in the queer community, somebody that you know will have a positive reaction. Open up to that person first. Or open up to your doctor. The next time you go get STI or STD tested, when they ask you that question, which is have you been with men, women, or both? Or are your sexual partners men, women, or both? And I think actually nowadays it is maybe there's all the other genders on there as well. But maybe just say both, or, be comfortable with saying yes to, have you had sex with men? Yes. Have you had sex with women? Yes. Maybe just start with your doctor and see how that makes you feel. Because then again, it's this person that doesn't really know you, that's not going to have a harsh reaction that's going to affect you. And that can just be a really good person to start with. Start small and see how that makes your body feel or how your emotions settle after saying it out loud. And then move to perhaps someone that's you just know will feel better to have that weight lifted off you if you let them know. And if you do open up to a partner or a loved one and the initial reaction is a negative one, remind yourself that that doesn't mean rejection. A lot of times that initial negative reaction they just need time to process. And although it can be very painful and hurtful to have that negativity off the rip, just remind yourself that they're not rejecting you. They're just in their own head. Maybe they feel bad that they didn't know this side of you, or they didn't realize that this was a part of you. You know, maybe they're having their own embarrassment because they didn't feel like they knew the real you, or they're completely shocked by it, or whatever it is. Like, everyone's entitled to their own reactions. But if it is hurting you or feeling uncomfortable, just step back, disengage altogether. It's okay to open up to somebody, and then when they respond in a way that is hurting your feelings or is feeling heavier than you anticipated, it's okay to be like, listen, I need to disengage for the moment. This is just, it's too much for me right now. Can we come back to it at a later date? Or step away and just give yourself a couple minutes to breathe and remind yourself that there's so many more conversations to be had. And sometimes when you let the dust settle, it really does open up new perspectives and ideas, and then you can usually have like a more powerful conversation if you come back to it at a later date, when you give your mind or the other person's mind some time to process. That's pretty much all. I think if you ignore the negativity, embrace the experimentation, and just understand that labels, you don't have to use them, but sometimes it can feel really liberating to do that. And if you are feeling still a little bit uncomfortable with your sexuality, just reach out to me, please. I am here to support you. Reach out to other allies that you know that are part of the LGBTQ plus community, and become a part of the community if it's something that you're curious about, because leaning into that connection can really help you open up. So I really appreciate you guys being here today. Another one down and another one's coming. Thank you for all your support always. I love you guys. Much love. Mwah. Talk soon. Bye.